What do farmers do that hinders their own success? That's the question we're asking in this episode of The Granary. You ready for a conversation with some real farmers about real issues? And the best part, you're invited. So pour yourself a drink, grab a snack, most importantly, pull up a chair. Welcome to The Granary. Hey guys. Hey there, another great day at the Granary, and we got my friends Temple Rhodes and Chad Henderson. And yes, they are my friends. They sometimes
I thought he was going to skip Temple.
He stuttered, didn't he? They challenged me a bit for my patience, but we love having them here. And then we're joined by our special guest and sponsor of this show, Concept Agritek. Concept Agritek is a sponsor of this show, The Granary. We very much appreciate your support. Your company is a manufacturer of biologicals and crop inputs that help people farm better. Sure.
Yep. And his name is Daniel Hensley.
Daniel Hensley.
I mean, his name wouldn't, you introduced him as Concept Agritek.
Oh, well, you know what? He's Daniel Hensley with Concept Agritek. I think you should.
I'm getting your seat.
What I want you to do is answer the question, what do farmers do that, anyway, we're not making a judgment. We're not making judgments.
Are we talking about all farmers or ourselves?
What do you do that hinders your own success? What do farmers that you know do that hinders their own success? What holds people back from being better, more successful farmers? You can start with yourself. You can start with the guy down the road, however you want to go about it.
Y'all think we need any more wood on the fire?
I don't think we need more
Are you going to pass again? Let's let Daniel go.
You go to all sorts.
You can say pass. You can say like, yeah, I'm going to let Temple go. So we just did that to you, so you'll have to do that next time.
That's all right. I can answer that one. Well, I got my opinion about it anyway.
All right, give me your opinion.
I think fear hinders a lot of farmers. You know, and I can explain that a little bit. You know, and you look at
there's multiple ways of fear.
That's absolutely right. The biggest one's failing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So
I think the biggest one is change.
Yeah.
Change.
Fear of change.
There's not a lot of farmers that are scared. Let's be honest, because if they're in business right now, they ain't scared.
Fear your buddy hanging you out to dry.
But they're scared of what the commodities are doing. They're scared of what the markets are doing.
Yeah, a financial risk.
That can hold those guys back.
Yeah. Or gals.
Oh, yeah.
Fear is not fear of change. It's reluctance to change. You're going to go with, is that the primary? Is that the number one? Unwillingness to change? Hindering their success?
It's in the top three.
What hinders farmers from being more successful? What holds?
Man, that's 100% in the top three. I bet it's top two.
All right. What's the other one that's in the top two? Reluctance to change. What else is holding back more farmers from greater success?
I'm going to go with the change thing.
I mean, it all
the fear of having to change the reality of what's going on. Like what's going on here is our inputs are so high. Let's just take this year, for instance, in last year, our inputs were so high. I think that a lot of people start to think about, can I get away from a dry program? You know what I mean? And I know you've had this conversations with a lot of farmers, like, can I cut out going out there and spreading that dry fertility, and how can I overcome that? And can I do it cheaper in a better manner? And I can spread my risk out, which they can, but it is changing everything that they have. It's been instilled in them from their father to their grandfather to their great grandfather of the way that they did things. And now you're going to them and you're going to say, hey, Mr. Farmer, we can save you some money. Quit worrying about building your bank and your soil. We know that it's got to be a balance there, but we also know that you need to go down the road of, balancing that crop, that plant, and putting in those inputs, and we can still make that yield, and we can shave some of them numbers. Yeah. But the farmer's so scared of getting in there. I'm going to mine my soil. And it's going to be destroyed the next year. Yeah, we have that conversation all the time. We've probably had that conversation with you guys at some point, even. But absolutely,
yeah. But through that conversation, it can be subtle change, right? Let's just say, Chad, you run a dry program, you run starter on your planter, you foliar your feed. I'm just going through it.
And then we're talking about a strip till program, a no till program, a conventional program.
Some guys fertigate when they have the opportunities. So there's all different things. Here's kind of what we've seen though, and just in the industry as a whole, is farmers know that they have to make a yield, right? Yep. You guys know you have to make a yield.
Yield pays, but bushels pay bills.
That's right. So sometimes that change that we talk about is accepted much better if it's subtle changes. I might ask a simple question, Chad. Why are you applying this product at this time?
Yeah.
and then turn around and go, here's why I'm asking, because the timing's wrong. Look, you're wasting your money, man.
And the efficiency is cut in half because of the wrong timing.
Because it's wrong timing.
That's right.
So why don't we just change the timing? If you're dead set on using DAP fertilizer, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe your timing is not good.
Yeah.
You know? And then we may have the same conversation. You look at me and go, logistics is terrible.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I don't have time to make that change. Right?
Everybody's got to be able to make the change for the operation that they have and what they are, and what their ability is.
That's what I was
in a nutshell.
Because the crop has to get planted.
Crops got to get planted. The planter's got to be in the field. Most people got 2x2 in them or just one or the other, or they have something on their planter and they can accommodate a lot of those things. And if they can't, we can get in front of that. Most farmers have a sprayer. They have some type of side dress rig. We can get in front of that. You know what I mean? But you got to be willing and able to change. But what I go back to is, had I made these changes a long, long time ago, I look at the dollars that were spent that I could have saved that never made anything. You know, we talked about it on prior episodes. Chad goes out there and spreads enough fertility for over 400 bushel crop. And he has never, ever, even if years and years have gone by, he's never seen it come out in the yield map.
And that money's not coming back.
And that money's not coming back.
Not the 400 bushel deal. We just can't even see it on the soil map itself.
That's
like,
right.
you know, you can't find it in the field,
right.
you know.
Yeah.
These guys went to agronomics. They like that. I was going to throw another one that I think Henderson, and again, you can say, oh, what do you know? You don't farm.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
That's exactly.
Okay.
Like, he fell down to get his clothes dirty.
Exactly. He put on cleaner clothes after you ragged on him.
And it was gravel dust.
Yeah.
Like, did you fall in the gravel? Like, it ain't even...
Well, a lot of the dirt and dust didn't even get off in the mud because we made him haul in.
I know what it is. Yeah, you've been chopping wood. Like, we're wading through it. We burn a cord.
Yeah, that's no kidding.
He almost let that one out.
Right. Well, we got a sponsor. I will quote the great Matt Miles when I say,
Here we go.
I've noticed that my net worth is proportional to the reduction in calluses on my hands. You know what? I think that there's a lot of farmers that love the idea of going out and digging in the dirt and driving equipment and playing in the shop and I don't have time to be in the office. I think the hindrance to success for a lot of farming operations
He's literally bashing me right now.
Avoidance of the business side of it is a business.
I can promise you that it's a balance in that. I can promise you, you know,
and you two don't love it. You two would rather have me hit you with a bat versus go and sit at the desk all day.
I mean, you can look at our family
come from
farm.
Indiana out to do mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that this year, especially that very thing. You know, as some of the things we've looked at as a company, and it's put farmers first. It's going to help them to win.
Yeah.
You guys win. You know, and I really do mean that. But as we've dug in and started a finance side and things like that, and a risk management,
was a big deal.
And a risk management side, you're exactly right. What we hear from farmers every day, and I mean literally, we hear this every day. They say, "Okay, I have to make a decision. Do I want to farm or do I want to market my grain?"
Mm-hmm.
Every time they're picking the farm, because if they don't go farm, they're not going to have anything to market.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they're doing that every time. This comes back to change that we talked about earlier. How do you be more successful on the business side as well, right? And I agree with you, Damian. I mean, it's.
I like that in front of Temple, Chad, you agree with me and pointed emphatically and told me how right I was. I think it's important for these two to hear that. But anyway,
well, he was on this one.
He was on this.
All joking.
We're going to go after him on everything else.
All joking aside on this, there's the old statement: the further you advance running your enterprise, the more you become a manager of money and people versus doing the actual work. And that's where I think a lot of farmers are going to have to realize this is a business. Whether you have employees or not, you're certainly managing the money side of it. And it's a lot easier to do that when you're actually running it from a business standpoint in the office versus, changing disc blades.
Yeah. And don't take that lightly, saying this is a business, guys. It's a multi-million-dollar business you're running, right?
Yeah.
I mean, with all the inputs and different things that come with that, the equipment.
And it can get out of hand quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Right. So
how much does it cost you? How much does it cost you to put in an acre of corn? $1,000?
Too much.
Okay, so $1,000 and start putting that across the acres, and it doesn't take you long until you've got $1 million, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
$1,000 on 1,000 acres, I think, is the math on that. What do farmers do that hinders their success? What have you done that you think, man, I would have been more successful if.
I wouldn't have done me.
Had you not called me about your wheat problem last year that he's throwing me under the bus for doing, go ahead and throw that one out there.
Friends at XtremeAg.
Yeah.
Yep. So they make really good wheat, better wheat than I make, and we've struggled with the wheat. We plant our wheat behind the corn, and it's tough. Like, it's tough to get that stand and all that butter. Right. It's a month later. So we decided this last year that, we see what's coming. We see it. And Stuart does all our marketing and handles that. Well, he had delayed delivery of some wheat, getting us a better price for it. We had 150,000 bushel wheat in the bin. Like, man, I'm looking at numbers. It's a solid $40,000 I'm going to save by just snatching that wheat out of the bin, right? I'm going to blow it out. We know where the price is. We know where the income is. We know we can still make good wheat. Well, I didn't get it clean. If you have to run through the drill, you got to get clean. I'm going to just blow this stuff out here. We're going to, that 2 VT tools, we're going to run this thing in. It's going to be glorious.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anybody out there that's ever replanted wheat. I still ain't found anybody, but I replanted 500 acres. Like, how you replant wheat? Like, have you ever known it?
No.
I'm he. He is out.
He blamed it on me.
So I got to know, how'd it go?
I replanted 500 acres of wheat.
Yeah, but how did it go?
Daniel, I just want to intervene real quickly and tell you that.
Hold on a minute. We're not done yet. So anyway, Temple decides, oh yeah, that's all we do. That's all we do. Well, he didn't tell me that he run a roller too. Like, the roller would have been key.
That's right.
And it's the weather patterns. I have never in my life spread wheat. I've always drilled wheat. I've farmed for however many years. I've never blowed any wheat.
But Daniel, like, if you're going to try something different on your farm,
sure.
Don't you try a few acres? He did them all. All.
Yeah. That was a trust deal. Now you're warped, right?
That's right.
You're not going to trust.
But no, what happened is, we had a weather event. And so we got about 3 rains in a row. That's about a tenth. And man, I was like, and he's like, well, how you blame me for this? I said, because I can. Because we're friends.
So I didn't know that he didn't run a roller. I said, well, did you run a roller, a packer behind your vertical? You didn't tell me that. Like, he's completely freaking out. He's like, had I known that, we wouldn't be in this problem right now. And I'm like, I may have left that part out. I'm just saying.
That would have been nice, wouldn't it?
It would have been nice.
I'm glad the question was. I got my own way.
I'm glad he's willing to admit that there's something that hindered his success. And I would also like to point out,
it was me.
There's somebody who's farming in rural Egypt that doesn't have to replant their wheat, and they're farming with a camel. I just want you to point out.
I get it. No, I promise you, I get it. But I'm just telling you that a lot of people's made really good wheat, blowing it out. I just don't know what I've done wrong. And I'm pretty sure it was in weather.
Sounds like you do now, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I listened to it. But anyway.
You guys are talking about a lot of, again, the practice stuff. I think there's a lot of mindset stuff that farmers get wrong when it comes to, and I'm not being any way judgmental.
Well, that's true. Farmers make almost every decision that we make it emotionally. And that's the wrong thing to do. That's how you lose money.
Yep.
But we do. Prices start failing. You're like, holy crap, I got to get in the game. Yeah. I'm afraid what's going to happen.
And
USDA puts out a report. You automatically get scared and you rush to the market.
Let's just talk about that on the wheat deal, right? I was already on the defense when I started the season.
Yeah.
Right?
Started on a non-positive note.
We started on a non-positive note. Instead of doing what you got out of your comfort zone, you did, and instead of doing it on a few acres, and I could have done it on a few acres where it got the good rain in, I got as good a stand as, and then it would have set me up. I'm just saying, we always get out of our comfort zone, and you may make a mistake when you get out of that comfort zone, but you learn something from it. We give it a hard way to go that I'll never do this again. That ain't it. You just learn something from it.
It's an opportunity, right?
It's an opportunity, and it happens.
Yeah.
People make bumper stickers over.
Yeah, you learn.
Truth.
You cover a lot of ground.
Have you ever seen anybody replant wheat? Anyway, you cover a lot of ground.
Not even in rural Africa where their equipment is a camel.
Not even
water buffalo.
Never been down there, but no.
What do you see farmers do that you're like, you know what, you'd be more successful if?
I think
it could be mental.
That's pretty hard and pretty judgy coming from
the company side.
Your company side.
It is, but
you've been on a lot of farms.
I have. Farmers need to listen to other people besides themselves.
We'll let that one sink in there for a second.
I'm serious.
I'll give
You
you.
mean like
Do not be afraid to ask.
and it's not,
business professional?
yeah. So
I think in all schemes, I think that's an excellent point too.
it is an
You know, from a business side to a marketing side to agronomy side. I mean, these people are there, Daniel, the people on his team.
Well, just look at the industry. The industry's full of people that wants to help.
Yeah.
I mean, it's full of people that want to help the farmer. It's full of some that probably doesn't too, right?
Yeah.
But there's a tremendous amount of people that want to help. You know, the thing that aggravates me the most some days is when you're sitting there explaining why something needs to happen, and the farmer looks at you and it's like it's just bouncing off their forehead. But the most rewarding part of that is a year later or 2 years later, you get a phone call and they go, "Hey, you remember when you said that a couple years ago?" "Yeah, man, I should have listened. It was right." My family farms. My dad retired from farming. Like I grew up in it ever since I was a little bit. You know, when I could push a clutch in on a tractor, that's when I started driving tractor.
Right.
You know, so I do understand it, and I think, you know, how many times have you guys heard was you're talking to people and you go, "Well, you know, what's your farm plan or what are you doing? If I can help you, I got to figure out what you're doing." Without fail, well, I'm applying 200 and 200.
Or what about this one? Well, you made 55 bushel beans last year, so I really need to make 62. Okay, well, that's not out of realm. You know, that's not out of bounds. What are you going to change? Nothing.
Yeah,
Well, you know what you're going to make? 55.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
So
But when you don't, what are you going to blame? You're going to blame the seed company?
Yep.
Because you ain't going to blame yourself.
Because, I mean, the seed company is really what brought us to the yields we have, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the farmer can get some of it, but to think as a farmer that you have done, I have made what, no, it's the production industry, it's the fertility companies, and it's the education, and we as farmers are doing better. I'm not saying that, but a lot of farmers haven't changed their practice any, and they're making more yields, and it's just the technology and
that's drugging forward. But you know, I'm gonna go back to what Daniel said. You know, let's take 15 years ago, 20 years ago. The younger version of myself would be like, "What are you doing up there? Like, what? Are you out of your mind?" Like, we didn't share information. We didn't talk about information. We didn't do any of that. And that hindered me from everything. And what you're talking about, like, developing a relationship with a company that you entrust with, you know, maybe they carry some of the financial things for you. You guys have different programs, that kind of stuff. But the agronomy and the amount of knowledge that there is there that they can help boost your overall business is a monster.
The self-confidence part of it. Just being able to bounce something off of him, give him a phone call and say, "Hey, I've been doing this. What do you think about that?"
Yeah.
And somebody just be on your side.
Somebody told me, "Do not do that."
But you know, the best part of those calls is when somebody calls and says, "Hey, what do you think?" And we say what we think, and the farmer goes, "No, I don't think that's right." That's good. That's good because your farm's way different than your farm, and his farm's way different than his farm, right? So when we talk through those things, I'm telling you, everybody involved gets way better.
Yep.
There's an embrace. I'm not anyway being mean. There's almost an embrace that we do in agriculture where we almost pridefully talk about how stubborn we are. And that's what you're talking about. That's mindset stuff. When you said, 77% of farms in this country don't have an estate plan. That's what a person that's a professional in the industry told me.
What's the percentage again?
3/4. 77. So, and you talk about, again, how many dollars are tied up on this? What's that grain bin over there? You know, as scrap metal, your grain setup is worth, $10,000. So you talk about millions of dollars of an entity, and there's not only a willingness, but almost an embrace to be pridefully stubborn among agriculture. And I think that gets to what you're talking about right there. It is whether from an estate plan to an agronomic plan. There's a lot of stubbornness.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But that goes back to change, fear of change.
Yeah.
That's why
are you willing to change your own future?
You know, we're starting to see a lot of the younger generation come in now. You know, and it seems like now more than ever, that younger generation's coming. You got kids, and Matt's got kids. But
my son.
Your son's coming, you know. So we're starting to see that younger generation come in there. We're seeing two different things. I'm just speaking for what we see here, but two different things. One thing is I'm farming like Dad farmed, and I'm not changing. That's one thing.
Okay.
The other thing we're seeing is a complete 180.
I'm not farming like he farmed.
There's no in between with it. They're either farming like Dad farmed, or
So there's not a middle of the road.
Let me tell you what my granddaddy told me.
Not from our view.
So I started planting, and when I started planting, the day I started, he pulled a truck up at the end, and me and him went to farm by ourselves, right? Pulled a truck up at the end. We was running 2 planters. My dad run one, I run another one. He said, "I'm gonna teach you how to plant today." He said, "The first thing I'm gonna teach you is do not plant like your daddy." That was rule number 1. We are not going to plant cotton like your daddy planted cotton. I'm going to teach you how to plant cotton because your daddy won't listen.
No shit. That's pretty good.
You know,
And I'm like, yes, sir.
That's where.
But that's that 180 he's talking about.
Your grandfather told you don't do what the generation between us did.
And it wasn't about the seed. It's the way he laid the field off. He could not stand it. If there's telephone poles on the edge, my granddad's going to scoot off from telephone poles. Shoot it straight.
Yeah.
My daddy said, that's a place to grow weeds. I'm going to bob in and out of them poles, right? And then I'm going to shoot it straight right through the next rows.
Yeah.
And to the end, them 2 argued over how to lay a field off.
Well, I think that's going to be whatever generation. But that's where, I think as far as like when Dad kind of like gave me the reins, that changed, and Dad would let me do anything I want. We'd buy a brand new piece of equipment. I go cutting on it with a torch. Because there was something that I believed that I could change and make it better. And he'd let me make all those mistakes on my own. And that's something that we don't do nowadays. Like, can you imagine something come back to the farm? I'm going to cut little T and Alexander loose with a torch.
What would you do? It would be bad.
I'm telling you, it'd be bad. But that kind of thing kind of has
you kind of have to turn a little T loose with a torch.
Look.
Because I have pulled up there before and like, don't hit the fence. The first thing you hit.
I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're gonna come to my farm, you better know how to weld, and you better know how to use a drill and a torch, and you better be a fabricator, because you're gonna mess up some shit around there. Because you are gonna spend some time in a service truck fixing stuff. Because I promise you, every time Temple's running something, he gonna mess something up. If there's a water hole in the field, he is driving smooth in it. I didn't even see it. Like, what was you doing? Was you Snapchatting, TikToking? Like, what happened here?
Daniel, I want to tell you that those baby toys that like where they lay in the bed and they look up and play with a little mobile.
Yeah.
He still needs one of those to keep his hands from going out and tearing up the equipment. A brand new piece of farm machinery came home from the dealership, and you went out there and started cutting torches.
No, but there's when you're brought up on the farm, in order to be a good operator or a good manager or to do a good job in the field, you literally need to spend time with hours in the seat and understand the mechanics of how things work, period. Because you can't make an adjustment when you really don't understand
How
what
do you
you're
get
doing.
from there to a cutting torch to a new
Because
piece of machine?
what I'm getting at is, like, to this day, I have ripped concaves out of combines and made them different and to try to improve that machine. And we've done it.
And then you put it on Facebook and they told you cease and desist.
Yeah.
Cease and desist.
It's happened.
That didn't happen.
Yeah. So, and my kids have watched me do that and they helped me do all these things. So they're not scared. And I like the fact that they're not scared. And Dad made me the kind of person that I am today. Like, don't be scared to change whatever you want to change. You can go back to where you were.
Yeah.
Just make whatever adjustments you want.
Let me ask this question. Is your son marketing his grain the same way you market yours?
No. When I started out, Alexander, farming his own ground, he got his first farms and I literally gave him my book of contacts. And I said, you can do whatever you want to do. You can lean on me if you want. But I would suggest that you call every one of these people and say, hey, Dad said call you, and they will walk you through. You have to build a relationship with them people. And if you don't, I will help you. There's no doubt about it. But I'm not helping you at all until you have a conversation with everybody on that list.
That's good.
And Alexander went through there and called every one of them. He called a grain broker. He called this.
Right.
Like, so he had a relationship with the salesperson at each one of the places, every one of them.
So you just made change.
Yep.
And that doesn't happen as often as you would like to think.
By the way, the good part about that, there's so many people, whether it's farmers or any other business, that are still propping up the 30-year-old kid and making the decisions for them and not letting them, sink or swim kind of thing. They don't even let them get past the waiting part of the pool.
Well, you know what else I made them do? I said, you will not send anybody a text message.
No.
You're going to pick up the phone and you're going to have a conversation with them, because you can't get something out of a conversation. It was bad enough. It was to the point where when he first started tilling his own ground, he was still in college and he was going to take some marketing classes and all. He picked up the phone, called our broker and said, what classes do I absolutely positively need? This is the classes that I have to choose from because Dad said that I need to become a better marketer than what he is. And then, and first, my broker is like us. He's like, first thing you do is never listen to him. Like, don't ever listen to him. You call me. And to this day, Alexander makes all those phone calls his own. He's developed his own relationships because he needs that. And it ain't over a text message.
Yes.
The new generation coming out, they lack that.
We're talking about ramping here, the idea of what hinders success that you see from the farmer standpoint. We've covered stubborn, we've covered fear, we've covered certainly reluctance to change. I said an embrace of being stubborn is almost like something that we celebrate, not reaching out to the right business professionals. And that's everything. That's everything from, like I said, the business side to the agronomic side, whatever. All of these things are fixable, to your point. All of these things are fixable.
Yep.
And I know that sounds easy sitting around there and talking about it, but you know what? I'm out here doing this. And
well, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a financial thing or whether it is an agronomy thing. Daniel said best, you have to be willing to change a little bit somewhere and make that change. And once you get comfortable with that change, you take it another step. It is baby steps because you can't go ahead and change it all at once.
I was going to go with another, Daniel. I think there's the ability to look in the mirror. And that's what you're really talking about, because all these things, if you say what's keeping a farmer, what's holding them back from being more successful, it's usually.
Well, you can't be afraid to make a mistake. You can't be afraid to try something new, and you can't be afraid of saying that, man, that was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
Like,
admitting it.
The most successful farmers that we work with across the country and outside the country, quite frankly, are the farmers that are afraid, that are not afraid to change. They're the farmers that are not afraid to admit, I screwed that up.
Yep.
They're the ones that want to learn the most. I'm telling you, hands down, they're the ones that are the most successful.
Willingness to adapt.
If that means that it's the ones that fail the most are, we got
that.
We got it.
I think we can leave it. You definitely. If it's a number of people that fell
we're
down,
gonna burn a cord of wood.
We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it.
We're going.
His name is Daniel Hensley, and he's here with Concept Agritek, sponsor of this show, The Grain. We're very appreciative of you being here and you sponsoring this show. If somebody wants to check out your line of products, where do they go?
ConceptAgritek.com.
And that's Agritek with a K. You are invited to come to all these sittings here at the Granary. You can figuratively pull up a chair, pour yourself a drink, and take part of the conversation. We produce this show because we want it to be fun and also informative and maybe a little bit inspirational for you. We talked about why farmers aren't more successful, what's holding them back, and we got a lot of great answers here from my man Temple Rhodes and Chad Henderson, and again Daniel Hensley with Concept Agritek. Till next time, cheers from the Granary. All right, that was